There is a stillness in you that cannot be disturbed, a place untouched by fear, unshaken by chaos, and immune to the noise of the world. It has no name, yet it knows everything. It has no shape, yet it holds the shape of your peace. It is not your mind, for your mind is loud. It is not your emotions, for your emotions are waves. It is not your body, for the body withers and bends to time. It is the part of you that watches quietly, lovingly, unmoved. And in that watching, there is power. We spend most of our lives reacting to what was said, to what wasn't said, to the look someone gave, to the news flashing across our screens, to the stories we carry like old, worn clothes, too heavy to wear, but too familiar to take off. We live at the mercy of our interpretations, our wounds, our replays of the past, and projections of the future. We live, but we do not watch. We act, but we do not see. To watch is not to detach from life, it is to arrive fully in it. It is to stop being dragged by the stream of every emotion and every judgment. It is to sit at the edge of the river and say, there it is again, the fear, the anger, the memory, the story, and then let it flow. The ego is a brilliant but frantic storyteller. It cannot live in the present moment because the present moment exposes its illusions. It thrives on reaction because it feeds on control. The ego needs your agreement. It needs your reactivity to survive. But your soul does not need to prove itself. It simply is. It observes without trying to fix. It accepts without needing to justify. It loves without asking to be loved back. Being the watcher is not an escape, it is the return. When you become the watcher, you are no longer the puppet of your past. You are no longer the hostage of your triggers. You begin to see that the anger is not you, it is an energy that passes through. The grief is not you, it is a wave that visits, not a house you must live in. The fear is not you, it is a voice, not your truth. There is a sacred gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap is where you reclaim your life. That gap is where the watcher lives. You are not your reactions. You are the awareness beneath them. You are not your thoughts. You are the spaciousness that notices them arise and fall. You are not the chaos. You are the calm watching the chaos. And when you remember this, you become free. Freedom doesn't come when the world is silent. It comes when you can hear the noise and choose not to be it. It comes when you can feel the heat of anger and not throw it. When you can taste the sting of offense and not become offended. When you can sit in the storm of opinion and not get swept away by any of it. There is no greater strength than presence. To be present is to live beyond reaction. It is to let go of the idea that everything demands your emotional involvement. It is to allow people to be who they are without needing to correct them. It is to hear a criticism and not make it your identity. It is to receive praise and not build your worth upon it. Presence is not passive. It is alert, grounded, alive. The watcher is not distant. The watcher is compassionate. It sees clearly because it does not cling. It understands deeply because it listens without defense. It acts with power because it does not act from fear. You see, when you become the watcher, life softens. Not because life changes, but because you do. The same situations arise, but they no longer own you. The same people trigger the same old patterns, but now you recognize them as patterns, not as truth. You stop bleeding into every moment. You stop needing everything to validate your sense of self. You return to your inner sanctuary, the place where your soul sits with open hands and a quiet smile, knowing that all things are passing clouds. You cannot stop the world from shouting, but you can stop yourself from echoing it. Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." And how often we let our own reactivity become the very suffering we try to avoid. We mistake reaction for power, but reaction is bondage. Reaction is the ego's way of staying alive. True power is in the pause. True power is in the breath that says, I see you, emotion, but I do not belong to you. The watcher doesn't suppress, it doesn't deny, it simply sees, and in seeing, it liberates. Watch yourself when you're offended. Who is it that feels so injured? Is it your soul, or is it an identity you've built, now threatened by someone else's opinion? Watch your defensiveness. Who is it defending? The truth needs no defense. The ego, however, is always on guard. Watch your craving for validation. Who is it that wants to be seen? The infinite spirit within you is already seen. It is seen by the entire universe. There is nothing you need to prove. Nothing you need to fix to be enough. Nothing you need to hold on to be safe. The watcher knows this. The reactor forgets. Let your breath be your teacher. When it quickens, when it shortens, when it tightens, that is the moment to return. That is the moment to step out of the role and back into the witness. Each inhale is a choice. Each exhale is a letting go. The more you breathe consciously, the more you become aware. And awareness is the birthplace of all transformation. When you are the watcher, you stop needing life to behave the way you want it to. You stop arguing with reality. You stop insisting that people be different to make you happy. You stop controlling what was never yours to control. And in this surrender, you find peace not as an achievement, but as your original nature. Peace is not something you chase. Peace is what remains when you stop reacting. So many of us live on the edge of offense. We're ready to be hurt, ready to be insulted, ready to be outraged. We've trained ourselves to scan for threat, not physical threat, but psychological threat. Someone disagrees with us and we feel erased. Someone rejects us and we feel unworthy. But what if none of it was personal? What if every offense is an invitation to awaken? You are not what others say to you. You are what you choose to hear. Let people misunderstand you. Let them mislabel you. Let them walk away if they must. The watcher does not flinch. The watcher knows that the truth doesn't need to chase anything. The truth just is. And if someone cannot see you, that does not make you invisible. If someone rejects you, that does not make you invalid. You are not here to be understood. You are here to understand. The moment you stop needing to react, you begin to live. You begin to notice the small joys, the way the sunlight touches the leaves, the pause between two heartbeats, the sacred silence after a deep breath. These are the spaces where the divine speaks, but you must be still enough to hear. And stillness does not mean inactivity. Stillness is presence. It is clarity. It is the quiet power of a soul unbothered by the noise. You have nothing to defend, no argument to win, no ego to preserve. You have only the opportunity in every moment to return to the watcher within. So next time you feel the rise of reaction, pause, breathe, watch. You are not the storm. You are the sky. The sky does not tremble when clouds pass through it. It does not cling to the rain or resist the lightning. It allows, it witnesses, it remains. And so must you. Your true self, the eternal witness, has never been broken, never been threatened, never been less than whole. It is only the ego that flinches, that crumbles, that begs for validation in the eyes of others. The soul simply watches and waits, knowing the truth is never in the noise. Every time you choose to observe rather than react, you are retraining your consciousness. You are shifting the gravity of your identity from the external to the internal, from fear to love, from protection to presence. You become like the ocean, watching its own waves rise and fall, but never mistaking the waves for its essence. The turbulence no longer defines you. The stillness beneath becomes your home. There is a moment, brief but sacred, when awareness interrupts a habit. That moment is a portal to liberation. A chance to say, I see it, I've been here before, but this time I choose differently. And in that subtle shift, your entire life begins to change. Not because the world softens, but because you no longer harden in its presence. You stop armoring up every time someone looks at you the wrong way. You stop bracing for judgment. You begin to live unclenched, wide open, deeply rooted, and profoundly present. And isn't that what true power is? To be unshakable, not because you dominate, but because you no longer need to defend. To be calm in the midst of fire. To be kind without condition. To be aware of the storm and yet centered in your stillness. This is the life of the awakened. Not free of conflict, but free of entanglement. Not void of feeling, but void of control by those feelings. When you stop reacting, you begin seeing. You see the other person not as an enemy, but as a mirror. You see your anger not as a truth, but as a message. You see your triggers as teachers. You see life not as a series of attacks, but as a series of invitations to evolve. You begin to understand that everything that once made you flinch is here to make you free. The reactive self is a prisoner of the past. It is stitched together by old wounds, unconscious stories, and inherited beliefs. It's constantly trying to protect something, a fragile image, a constructed identity, a false sense of self. But the watcher knows there is nothing to protect because the soul is not a character. The soul cannot be injured by opinion, it cannot be destroyed by loss, it cannot be undone by time. You are not your conditioning, you are not your defense mechanisms, you are not the fight or flight impulse that flares up when things don't go your way. You are the one who sees it all. And in seeing it all, you are no longer owned by any of it. Have you ever felt the weight of a reaction coming, the anger bubbling, the heart racing, the story forming, and then you paused, you breathed, you watched, and just like that, the charge softened. That is presence. That is awakening. That is what it means to remember yourself in the heat of forgetting. It's not about never feeling triggered. It's about no longer being tricked into believing those triggers define you. It's not about being a stone cold and unfeeling. It's about being a mountain still and grounded, even as the winds howl around you. You see, the more you watch without reacting, the more you begin to trust life again. You realize that not every comment needs a comeback. Not every situation demands your opinion. Not every disagreement is a battlefield. You stop entering every interaction with armor. You stop needing the last word. You begin to understand that silence can be the loudest answer. That stillness can be the most powerful presence. And in that space, that holy space between what happened and how you choose to respond, a miracle occurs. The miracle of self-possession, of divine clarity, of peace that cannot be disturbed by anything outside of you. You no longer live from habit, you live from intention. You begin to meet life with eyes open, heart soft, and soul steady. The reactive mind is always chasing approval, chasing control, chasing an identity it can hold on to. But the watcher knows there is nothing to chase when you already are. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be fully awakened yourself. To be so deeply rooted in your presence that even if the world misreads you, misunderstands you, misjudges you, you stay true. Truth needs no audience. Presence needs no applause. The divine in you needs no permission. And so I invite you, not tomorrow, not someday, but in this very moment, to pause. Let the breath remind you of the eternal now. Let the silence return you to the sacred watcher. Let the witness within you rise. And from that space, observe. Observe your thoughts without clinging. Observe your emotions without dramatizing. Observe your life without rushing to fix, correct, or judge. This is not the end of your spiritual path. This is the beginning. Because when you become the watcher, everything changes. Not by force, but by frequency. You stop vibrating at the level of the problem and begin rising into the solution. You stop looking for healing in others and start embodying it within yourself. You stop playing the role of the victim or the hero and simply become real. And in your realness, your grounded, divine, conscious presence, you begin to heal not just yourself, but everyone you touch. Not through preaching, not through trying, but simply through being. Being the space, being the peace, being the clarity in a world addicted to confusion. You are not here to be tossed around by life. You are here to be the still point, the silent flame, the breath between the chaos. And you'll know when you found this place, not because life gets easier, but because you stop collapsing in front of it. Your center becomes unshakable. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. Your love becomes unconditional. And from this space, my friend, everything becomes possible. And from this space, my friend, everything becomes possible. When you no longer live at the mercy of your reactions, you step into the rarest kind of power, the power of inner authority. Not dominance, not superiority, but sovereignty of the soul. You're no longer pulled by every emotional wind, no longer yanked into battles that aren't yours. You become a space of presence that others can feel but cannot disturb. You begin to hear the world, not just through your ears, but through your spirit. Someone may yell, and you hear their pain. Someone may judge, and you hear their fear. Someone may try to provoke, and you sense their longing for love. The watcher sees this, not to become better than anyone, but to remember none of it is about you. And what a relief that is. What a deep, cleansing sigh for the soul to know you are not responsible for the storms in other people's skies. You are only responsible for whether you bring your umbrella or your sunshine, whether you enter their storm or remain the calm that invites them into clarity. To live as the watcher is not to become indifferent, it's to become deeply compassionate without losing yourself. Compassion doesn't require you to abandon your peace. In fact, real compassion flows from peace. When you react, you join others in their suffering. But when you watch, you become the mirror that reflects something higher. You say without words, you don't have to live like that. There's another way. And when you live this way, something extraordinary happens. You begin to radiate peace. Not the kind that looks peaceful on the outside, but simmers with resentment underneath. Not the kind that avoids conflict by shrinking. No, this is the peace that walks into any room and changes its atmosphere. The peace that speaks without words. The peace that silences chaos just by being. Because when you are no longer at war with yourself, the world cannot drag you into battle. You stop arguing with reality. You stop trying to edit the universe to match your preferences. You stop needing the moment to be anything other than what it is. And in that surrender, you don't become passive, you become present. You take action, not from desperation, but from alignment. You speak, not to defend, but to express love. You listen, not to prepare your reply, but to understand with your whole being. This is how the soul moves. Gently, powerfully, without rush, and oh, how the world needs more of this. More beings who don't crumble at conflict, who don't lose themselves trying to win approval, who aren't addicted to proving they're right. The world is loud with reactions. Be the one who is quiet with understanding. Be the one who slows down when others speed up. Be the one who chooses grace when the ego demands retaliation. There is a river inside you that has never stopped flowing. Even when you were tangled in your thoughts, even when you believed the voice of fear, even when you reacted with anger, shame, or pride, that river was always there, steady, ancient, divine. It is your true nature. The watcher lives there. The soul drinks from it. And your freedom begins the moment you return to its banks. So when you feel yourself being pulled into the story, the fight, the trigger, the need to explain, the craving to be seen, pause. Let the breath return you. Let your awareness remind you. Let the watcher reclaim the moment. Because life isn't about avoiding the waves, it's about learning to surf them with awareness. It's about realizing that no matter what chaos dances across the surface, the depths of who you are remain unmoved. That is your home. That is your truth. That is the part of you that has never been hurt, never been lost, never been less than divine. And when you live from that place, when your identity is rooted not in ego, but in soul, then your presence becomes medicine. You don't have to fix everyone. You don't have to save the world. You don't even have to change anyone's mind. Just be what you are when you're not reacting. Light, calm, truth, stillness. That is enough. More than enough. That is the invitation you offer the world. Come sit with me in this silence and remember who you are. And if they do, beautiful. And if they don't, you continue walking, not in pride, not in bitterness, but in peace. Because the watcher walks with grace. And grace, my friend, is the only power that doesn't need to shout. The watcher walks with grace, not because it is immune to pain, but because it no longer mistakes pain for identity. It has learned the sacred art of presence, not as a performance, but as a remembrance. To watch is to love without possession, to listen without preparing to speak, to live without the weight of needing everything to be different in order to be okay. And when you live like this, when you truly become the watcher, the need to be understood falls away. You no longer plead with the world to see you, to validate you, to applaud your efforts. You know that to be seen by the divine within you is more than enough. You feel the presence of the infinite, not as something to chase, but as something that never left. Something that was always whispering beneath your reaction. You are not this storm. You are the sky. It passes through. And in this realization, you soften. You stop bracing for impact. You stop rehearsing pain. You stop living from the haunted echoes of what if and what was. You rest not in exhaustion, but in awakening. You stop trying to control what's never been yours and instead surrender to the stillness that has always been home. You forgive yourself for every time you believe the lie that you were only as worthy as your performance, only as loved as your usefulness, only as safe as your defenses. You forgive yourself for the times you reacted, for the times you fell into fear, for the times you said what your soul never meant, not because it was right, but because you are ready to be free. Forgiveness, too, is an act of watching, of saying, yes, I see the wound, but I also see who I truly am beyond it. And then something quiet but life-altering begins to happen. You stop waiting for permission to be at peace. You stop postponing joy until circumstances align. You stop bargaining with life. If this happens, then I'll feel whole. No. Wholeness is now, peace is now, God is now. Everything you've been chasing while reacting was always sitting silently in the sanctuary of your awareness. The watcher knows that time is not the answer, presence is. You don't need another year to become what your soul already is. You don't need more proof, more agreement, more applause. You need only this breath, this stillness, this radical return to the center that has never abandoned you. And this is not a theory, this is an embodiment. When you embody the watcher, your life becomes less about performance and more about presence. You start speaking less and saying more. You start needing less and feeling fuller. You begin walking through the world with a softness that doesn't ask, do you accept me? But instead radiates, I accept myself. And because you accept yourself, others feel safe to do the same in your presence. Your being becomes a sanctuary, your silence becomes sacred. You no longer react to prove your worth, you respond from the overflow of your awareness. That's how the divine speaks. Not to convince, but to awaken. Not to correct, but to reflect. You begin to realize that every trigger was a teacher, and every interruption was an initiation. That the very moments which once made you spiral were not obstacles, they were sacred doorways. Doorways leading you deeper into the witness, deeper into grace, deeper into the stillness that does not flinch, does not fight, and does not fear. And now, you are ready. Not ready to achieve something, not ready to prove anything, but ready to finally live, not from the ego's urgency, but from the soul's timelessness. Ready to meet the day, not as a battle, but as a blessing. Ready to hold space instead of hold grudges. ready to watch your thoughts pass like clouds and realize you are the sky. You always were. The world may still swirl, people may still project, but you now walk as the calm inside the center of it all. And when old reactions try to rise, because they will, you'll meet them with compassion, not condemnation. You'll greet them like old friends with fading power, saying gently, I see you, but I no longer serve you. And in that moment, you will smile, not because life is perfect, but because you have remembered who you are. You are not the fear. You are not the noise. You are not the ego's constant commentary. You are the one who watches all of it and chooses love anyway. So breathe, beloved soul. Breathe and return to this sacred moment, to this steady presence, to this watcher that does not need to win but only needs to witness. Let others shout. Let the world race. Let the noise unfold. You just keep watching. Just keep being, just keep loving, because when you are the watcher, not the reactor, you do not just change your life. You remember that you are life. And life, in its truest form, does not react. It flows, it trusts, it shines, and so do you.